There we go. Yeah. So, welcome to the one of the very early episodes of my Mesmerise podcast. And with us today, we have Jasper and Jude from Beyond Extinction. How you doing, guys?
Well, hey, good, thanks.
I'm doing very well. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you.
And yeah, we're doing this currently at lockdown. I'm not expecting to release this anywhere, anywhere near lockdown being finished, but I think it's important to iterate that.
I thought that was going to stop there. I thought you were going to say I'm not going to plan to release this anyway. I was like, well,
Yeah, and no one is allowed to hear what you guys come out with. It is just not fit for public consumption.
yeah.
Oh yeah, so this is what I actually do. I best admit it at this point. I'm just this lonely in lockdown that I've made a fake interview podcast so that I can just get people to speak to me and feel like, great, I'm being social. I'm not trapped in a tiny little flat. It's great.
He's actually bought mannequin models and painted our faces on them to pretend that we're there with him.
I like that. There's going to be a very good segue in the future in this particular part about mannequins.
Oh dear.
The Mesmer mannequins.
Exactly. Perhaps the Perilla mannequins. I'm saying too much now. Better shut up. But yeah. So Beyond Extinction, you guys refer yourselves as a death metal band. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say that we've taken influences from tons of genres and loads of different sort of areas, but I think that we've sort of settled as kind of find ourselves around kind of the death metal, deathcore sort of genre. I mean, realistically, I think this it's not hugely important. Like the subgenre we define ourselves as, in my opinion, it's kind of if someone listens to our music and they like it, then that's fantastic. And you know, we don't want to limit ourselves by saying that we are X, Y, or Z. But yeah, I'd say that if that's how it's best to sort of to label us, then I've got no problem in doing that. But yeah, I'd say from all the pools that we take our influences from, death metal probably sums us up quite well.
And what bands would you say predominantly influence you guys?
It depends really because it's a quite a mix of influences, and I think that's what kind of sets us apart from other bands. Whereas maybe other bands might be a load of guys who like deathcore or metalcore coming together and playing that kind of music. We have a wide spectrum of influences. I know some of the guys in the band come from like indie backgrounds, some from like punk, some from more thrash metal. I know that I come from like a more progressive metal background, like Tool and Mastodon, and I try and kind of put those influences in there, as well as like Gojira, and obviously Jasper can explain his influences.
Yeah, I started off my first ever like proper metal band I got into was Asking Alexandria, so like proper like 2010s metalcore kind of stuff, like the long black fringe teenager music. And yeah, it sort of progressed from there. I mean, like I never had the sort of regular progression that most metalheads have of the kind of getting your first Slayer or Metallica album and stuff. I had a good mix to start off with, but I'd say that like my main influence is probably like deathcore. I like a lot of experimental stuff as well, and I'd say that I take a lot of stuff from different fields, but I'd say that when it comes to writing music, deathcore is probably where I get most of my influences from.
Yeah, because I know you're quite a big fan of Violitis Murder, and I think you might like Parkway Drive just a little bit.
I have what some would consider an unhealthy obsession with Parkway Drive. I could probably say that I've put in several hundred, if not thousands, of hours of listening to those guys, and I wouldn't like to think about the amount of money I've spent on merch and tickets to see them. But our unreleased material we're writing at the moment, I've taken a lot of influences structure wise from their music, and yeah, I'm no stranger to listening to Parkway Drive on repeat for several hours on end.
Yeah, because they've progressed quite a bit. I remember years ago when I was back in college, a friend of mine, he introduced me to Parkway Drive, and I think the record that he showed me was Deep Blue, which I ended up buying on CD. That's how far back this goes when people still bought CDs.
Yeah, it's crazy that like it's sort of Deep Blue was a record that's only kind of from like 5-6 years ago. I mean, well, probably a little bit longer than that, but like it's their sounds progressed quite a lot recently, but like there's so many records like that. I mean, like you look at their first music that was produced like literally when I was like a 1 or 2 year old child, and they've got a really rich history of stuff. But like I mean, I myself do indulge myself. Like I go to HMV when I can and pick up as many of their CDs and stuff and like DVDs and things in physical form because that I do kind of like to romanticize the pre-streaming era. But yeah, I am. Yeah, I've definitely got an investment in that band, 100%.
That's one thing that I think really kind of unites Beyond Extinction is although we have these kind of different influences, we all have a set of bands that we can all really jam to. One being kind of Parkway Drive, and the other one being Bury Tomorrow. And that's when I really like for me because I only joined the band. What was it? January last
It was
year,
only
January
a year and
2019.
a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I remember the first time I met Jasper and Niall, our drummer, was at a Bury Tomorrow concert, and kind of had a jam with those guys and a bit of a mosh and that. And you know, little did I know that would be the start of something very, what's the right word? Spellbinding.
That's just pre-OTT, but yeah, no, that's fair enough.
So in that regard, how did Beyond Extinction start? As you said, Jude, you joined the band about a year and a bit ago.
Mm.
So I guess this is more directed at Jasper, as he was probably there right from the start. So
Yeah.
how did Beyond Extinction start exactly?
I mean, our first form was basically myself and Niall, our drummer, his older brother, Adam, he's a nice guy. I was really good friends with him, and you know, someone who was a really good mate in my life. And we were sort of into like Ask Alexandria, those sort of bands for a while. And we kind of used to jam together, and I'd try and scream best as I could and that sort of stuff. And we kind of tried to put bands together, and like we never fully followed through with it and stuff. And like we just sort of we developed our music taste a lot together. And then at school, Niall, yeah, Adam's younger brother, so he started learning to play the drums. So he obviously joined in with us and stuff like that. And then it sort of progressed along, and Adam sort of stepped down from doing the music with us. So Niall and I got with a friend of Niall's at the time, a friend of mine and Niall's called Liam, and we'd jam together, go to practice rooms and stuff like that. And we didn't really have tons of original music. And then one day, Niall was like, "Oh, there's a kid at our school called Zach who's just kind of like metalhead and a couple of school years below us. We should invite him along." And I had no idea who he was. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna have some kind of like strange kid that I don't know showing up." And then he rocked up with this guitar like double the size of him. And just kind of started playing some like proper like Metallica riffs and things. We're like, "Hey, this guy's quite cool," and yeah, just built from there. Then Niall Ivy, our bassist, got involved. And he was, I mean, when he joined the band, actually, he didn't even play bass. He was a guitarist. But we said, "Do you mind playing bass for us?" And yeah, he for God knows what reason decided to say yes to that. And then a couple months down the line after our first gig, Jude got involved because he was friends with Niall. One of his mates, Leon, is Jude's younger brother. So Jude got involved through that. And yeah, we've taken various forms and influences through that period of time. We started off doing like covers of like Green Day songs and like classic metalcore songs and things. And yeah, we've sort of built up from there. But we've been on a journey. We've had various different names and various different band members. But the lineup we have now and the music we create now is something which we're all really happy and proud with. So yeah, it's been a little roller coaster up to this point for sure.
Okay, so since then, what has exactly changed from Beyond Extinction from day zero to now, other than everyone sitting at home?
Well, I'd say personally for me, it's been definitely sort of the realization of what it means to be in a band. Whereas beforehand, it was kind of just an extension of how to like metal music for us. It's now turned into something which is actually a real good creative output and a real good kind of way to express ourselves. Whereas beforehand, it was kind of, I think in my mind, I can't speak for anyone else in the band, but in my mind, it was kind of, well, I really like metal. I'm a metal kid. How do I express that in a different way? Well, I can say I'm in a band, and the actual production of music and creating of of songs and stuff didn't matter as much. And it's definitely changed in the sense that as we've got older and we've been doing more around the band, you know, making more music, playing more shows, we've realised that it's much more than, personally for me, it's much more than just kind of an extension of being a fan of music. It's a real way to express myself and to do something that I love. So for me personally, it's developed from just sort of a phase of my life where I wanted to be like, you know, Ben Bruce from Ask Alexandria and you know, Andy Biersack from Black Veil Brides. Instead of just kind of idolizing them, it turned from me faking being them into actually being part of a band, which is, you know, my progression. I'm sure Jude's got his own kind of mindset of how it worked for him.
Yeah, well, I think a good way that I would answer this question would be to go back to that kind of time last year in sort of January, when I remember the first time hearing about it was my brother joined Westcliff High, which was obviously where Jasper and Niall and Zach and that were, and he had joined the metal club at lunchtime at his school, which I thought was great. I wish we had one at my school. And I remember him saying about this guy that ran it, how he was really cool and you know he liked metal and it was really awesome. And that guy was Niall. And I remember him saying something about they had a band, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool." I remember talking to Niall a bit after that Barry Tomorrow show, and I remember him saying, I pretty much joined the band almost as a joke. And I don't mean that as like, you know, I joined as like, you know, haha, yeah, you know, like this band's gonna go anywhere. I joined it as because I asked Niall originally, because I'm a photographer as well. And I said to him, "Oh, dude, if you ever want any photographs for your band, like hit me up. I'm sure I can, you know, help out. I'd love to do it." And then I also put as kind of a joking remark, I thought I'd be a bit cheeky, and I said, "Oh, you know, and if you need a second guitarist, you know, I can do that as well." And I remember him saying, "Oh yeah, well, dude, we actually do need a second guitarist." And I was like, "Oh shit." Like, oh my God, like, I didn't really think he'd actually he'd actually say that. And he said, "Oh, why don't you come down to our show in January at Chinnery's in Southend, and why don't you come and see us?" And I was like, "Yeah, damn, that sounds like a good idea." So I remember going down there, and I really didn't know. I suppose I was in the same position that a lot of people say they're in when they go to our shows, where they don't really know who we are. We just look like a bunch of like random kids. We don't. They're not really expecting that much because, you know, in fairness, when you go to live shows, especially if it's local bands, you're not expecting like Iron Maiden level. You know, you're expecting just a couple of guys playing some cool tunes, hopefully. But I remember them coming on stage, and I remember they started playing, and I thought, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And that wasn't just because I wanted to join, obviously. It was more of it just hit me as like, wow, I want to be a part of this band because their sound is so, it was just leagues above what I was expecting, and how they all played together and how they all performed, and Jasper's energy and Niall's drumming and all of the guys, it was just like wow. And it really just hit me, and I thought I've got to join this band because they're going to go places. And I joined, and well, you know, it wasn't too much later on that year that, you know, the band opened for Cancer Bats. So clearly I'm a psychic,
One of the best days of my life, that.
and I wasn't there.
Yeah, that was horrible. It was such a shame when we got the email saying we've chosen you guys to support Cancer Bats, and it was literally the one day since Jude's joined the band that he was away for a reason he you know he couldn't change, which is obviously a shame. But yeah.
Yeah.
Rough.
But no, like you guys have done very well for yourselves, especially in such a short amount of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's definitely been the sort of thing where we've realised that we've got a USP saying that we're younger than most bands that we're playing with and that are in the scene with us and stuff. And you know that USP only lasts for a certain amount of time. You know, we're not going to be this age forever. So I think that being able to show, you know, the commitment and stuff that we've all put in this period of time is good, because we can say, hey, we've got this commitment to what we're doing, and we're also much younger than a lot of people that are
Definitely,
around the
yeah.
scene and stuff, which is great. But obviously that doesn't last forever, and we've got to make sure we make the most of it what we can do. But yeah, since the band properly formed, I think our first gig was like around the 10th of August 2 years ago, something like that. And since then, that was our first like proper show that we put on. And yeah, we've definitely from that point till last summer there was an absolutely huge amount of growth. We went from playing our first gig to about 8 people in Colchester to supporting Cancer Bats at Chinnery's, which was like an insane step up for us. And it's just about trying to make sure that given every opportunity we have that we can replicate that over years to come.
As well, I'd like to build on Jasper's point and say that I totally agree with like the unique selling point of us is that we're young and we're already at this stage. And I think a lot of you could argue with a lot of young bands that their advantage is that they're young, which means they have a lot of potential. And obviously people who are in the music industry look for young bands who have potential because they're aware that young bands aren't going to be complete bands that are immediately ready to sell, because it doesn't work like that. You can't be young and also have loads of experience. So they look for young bands who kind of have a bit of promise. And what the mistake could be is that the thing is about being young and inexperienced. Yeah, it's good because you can show that you can progress and you have a lot of talent and potential, but if you don't actually capitalize on that and work hard and really nail down your sound, then it's still just potential. And then so if you keep going on like that and taking it for granted, then you'll just end up being a kind of a not young band that is just potential, and really that's not really what people want to sign. So I think, like Jasper said, what we want to do is basically really hone what we're doing and really get as professional as possible in the shortest time as possible, so that we can give the best show that is physically that we're capable of, and hopefully just keep growing like we've been doing, and just not stop until we've made it, hopefully.
Of course, I mean, this this is how I've seen the band as an outside person. Is you guys have a reliability that you don't see with a lot of young bands, actually
That's
bands in general.
interesting.
It's
Yeah,
you guys have a mature energy that a lot of bands generally don't have. You guys are clearly a unit and know how to work on momentum. So that's what you
Yeah,
from
yeah,
a,
we appreciate that. Thank you. I think that that side of it I think comes from the fact that we understand that we don't take ourselves too seriously in the sense that we, and I'm sure Danny will know, having been to Bloodstock with two of us, that we enjoy having fun as much as anybody else, and we think that that's a huge part of being involved in music, is enjoying yourself. But then as well as that, I feel like there's times and places to take things seriously, and I think that there's it's not too difficult to be able to find a balance between having fun and being professional and being
definitely. Yeah.
reliable to things. And I think that is we definitely appreciate hearing that as an outsider that you see that professional side of things, because we do definitely try to show that.
Yeah, and I think with us as well, like it is just about knowing when to have fun and knowing when to just go, right, this is time to get serious. And I think, we have a joke in, the group chat, and when we do practices and rehearsals, like we throw in a good amount of fun, even when we go in to do recording with our producer Matt. We aim to have a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, we're there for a purpose. We're there to rehearse or to record or to practice, and that always comes first. And we always make sure that we actually do it, and so that basically we can have the fun, but also, at the end of the day, we've set out what we've set out to do. We've done it, and we've put our head down, and that means that when we get on stage, pretty much, and this is I think why I suppose we're kind of shocking to some people when they've just seen us, because if you go to any of our shows, you'll see us before the show chilling out, being stupid, not like trashing the place, but just
yeah.
having a laugh with each other and doing that kind of stuff. And then as soon as our intro music cues, or as soon as Niall walks on the stage to the drums, from that point onwards, and from the start of the first song, we cease to be five, for the lack of a better term, kids who just like music and like playing, and we step on the stage, and from the first song all the way till the last song, we are Beyond Extinction, which I know is a really cliche thing to say, but it is that unity of everyone knows their parts sometimes. Everybody knows what they're there for. Everyone knows what kind of a show to put on. We all know exactly what's going on, and so when we step on stage, it's like second nature. We don't even think about it. And I don't know, Jasper probably agrees, but a 30-minute set feels like about 5 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. It shoots past, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it seems so kind of quote unquote easy for us to slip into this kind of more professional persona when we're on stage, is because the actual time we're on stage shoots past so fast that by the time it's finished, we can just go back to chilling out and acting how we normally do, and it doesn't feel like we've lost any time doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely understand that feeling with that. It is a little throwback since we have played together a few times. Do you
Yeah,
remember when we played at the Edge together and Niall's kick went?
I do remember that. I remember it was during sound check, and
Yeah.
and because we've been quite lucky that we've had. I mean, apart from the fact that our first two shows, our bass player forgot to turn his bass on for like the majority of the set, we've had very little technical hiccups. Our time as being a band, which has been quite good. But we had like a run of shows last summer, and one of those shows was playing at the Edge with your band Perilla, and we got there, and regular kind of story, put the merch up, put our equipment up, all that sort of stuff. And during our line check or whatever it was, Noel ended up sticking a stick or his kick through one part of his drums. And that was literally the first proper like actual technical problem we'd had in what I can only say is my memory of being in the band, basically. So I can say that as good as anyone, Danny, you've seen us at the lowest of our low points and probably the highest of our high points as well.
Oh, don't worry, we shared that moment together because our drummer used that kit after you guys, and as you're well aware, we use click tracks, so he had to play the whole set without a kick. So he's had to sort of replace the kick with toms, and bless David, he does what he can in those moments, but he'll look at me, he'll mouth something at me, point at things, and I'll just turn around and say, nah, fuck it, just go, do it, just do your thing. And then he'll start screaming stuff at me. I was like, I don't know, just do things. Just
I tell you what, that
saying
about technical difficulties, it does remind me. Usually, being a guitarist on stage, really, the only thing that can go wrong is, unless like your amp blows up, pretty much is just if you walk too far away from the amp and you're wired up, you can end up dragging half your pedals across the stage or disconnecting your jack lead from the actual amp. But the worst thing I've never had any guitar problems. I'd say actually the worst is just your guitar going out of tune, but that's if you haven't set it up properly. So really, that's whose fault is that?
Or if you don't have an Evertune.
Yeah, but basically, basically the only thing that's happened to me on stage that's been a massive technical difficulty, which looking back was pretty hilarious, was when I had to fill in on bass for our bassist Niall at Norwich. We went to Norwich for a gig, and it was in this tiny little stage around the back of a pub, and it was one of the funniest nights of my life. It was one of the most memorable gigs. I had to fill in for bass because our bassist Niall couldn't make it, and I had all my bass set up. So basically, I was going into it was the lead coming from my bass into the tuning pedal, and then there was a short lead going from the tuning pedal to the amp. And obviously I'd put the long lead going from the tuning pedal to the bass so I could walk around, because we always say about stage presence and owning the stage and keeping our typical energy up. Anyway, when I got there, basically the sound guy pointed me to this kind of a smallish bass amp, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is what we'll be using." And I thought, okay, maybe it looks deceiving. Maybe it won't be, what it looks like, which is a piece of crap. And I remember we started with Broken Throne, I believe, and the first note that I played with the bass amp completely shut off, and it was basically 20 seconds of the sound guy looking up from the sound desk, running over, unplugging everything, and then basically he thought it'd be a great idea to bypass my tuning pedal. And so you'd think that the intelligent thing to do would to be basically take out the long jack from the tuning pedal, plug it straight into the amp, have it straight into the bass, job done, just whatever. Instead, what he did was plug the really short cable into my bass and then plug that straight into the amp. So I couldn't move longer than about a foot. And then basically this horrible bass amp, which let out this disgusting tone. It wasn't mic'd up or anything. So I had to whack it right up, and obviously it was very old and very
Was it
knackered.
really? Was it like really farty? Like it's not real bass. It's not rumbles.
It was pretty much just like. And I was trying to play through it, and honestly, I was trying not to laugh for half of the set because it just sounded abysmal. And I remember it cut out in another song. I think it cut out pretty much in Broken Throne at the start, and then at Broken Throne at the chorus, where basically, because we didn't have another guitar, it was just Zach doing his really up high melodic lead part, and then just absolutely nothing else. There was no bass, no other guitar, no nothing, because it had cut out. And I remember the other time it cut out, and I think I looked over at the sound guy, and I was expecting him to come over, and he was just chatting to someone, and I was like trying to mouth to him, trying to look over to him, and I was like, dude, the bass amp's not working, dude, get up here. And so what I had to do was basically just unplug it myself, plug it back in, and for some reason it worked. But yeah, that whole gig was absolutely hilarious for many reasons.
Really fun time at that show because the guy who runs it, Jim, he puts on Beast Anglia like metal nights in Norwich, and to be honest, I think it was a fun show for a while. And in all fairness to him, he put on like it was a really really fun show, and the other bands that played were great. They had Obsidian down, who'd played Bloodstock before, and we had a really good time there, and it was plagued by technical problems, but as the show goes, like we had a lot of fun there. It was one of our first trips, sort of, far. Like I remember Jude picked like some of us guys up from school, and like I was at the pub with my mates beforehand and stuff, and like we had a long drive up there, and it was fun. I think it was definitely an experience, and there was a technical difficulties to go with that, but I had a really good time there, and I've got to give a shout out to Jim because he did a sick job.
Big up Jim.
Yeah, but I remember one of the songs that we had during that set list was we have a song which basically sort of, I don't know, like 20, 30 seconds after the start of the song, there's a kind of a bass solo for like a bar or two. And Niall, our bassist, obviously he just nails it every time he plays it. He's been doing it for however long, and he knows it, as well as anyone. And Jude basically had been like a week to learn the set list on bass, and we had this like cable that just didn't work at all, and it was like basically all the instruments cut for like 12 seconds, and there's Jude just trying his best to sort of like spaff out this bass solo that only like 1 in 3 notes get played and stuff. But we did the best with what we could, and we had a fun time.
Yeah.
Good. Actually, going back to a previous point that we're making is you guys are quite a young band. What kind of challenges do you guys face being such a young band? I remember when we borrowed a drum kit from Niall. I think he was 17 at the time. We didn't know that at the time. So our drummer's like, oh, really appreciate buy you a drink, whatever. He's like, oh yeah, he's 17. Like, bollocks. I'll get him a drink then.
Honestly, I think that's sorry, Jasper. I was just gonna say, I think that's probably one of the only challenges I can think of is just me having to buy everyone drinks, or Jasper when he was finally 8. It's just not being able to play some venues, but I don't think we've honestly I wouldn't really know, because obviously it's more of Jasper's territory with booking and stuff. So Jasper, take it away.
I more or less think that the main problem I first encountered was that we were trying to get a gig in London for quite a while, And we basically found out the hard way that literally every single venue, as soon as they find out you have an under 18, just wants absolutely nothing to do with you. Because most of the venues that we were sort of looking to play are mainly bars, and it's kind of their money take for the night will be done on drinks and stuff. So if you're a band with under 18s and you're attracting an audience which has a lot of under 18s in it, they're not going to make money, so they want nothing to do with you. And that's a bit of a problem. I feel like what a lot of people don't appreciate is that, like, with us being our age, a lot of bands kind of, that are similar to age to us don't mind not playing gigs very often, and sort of once they find a venue that takes them, just play that over and over again. And we have a real urge to play as many places as we can do and as often as we can do. So it's really frustrating when we find that there's a venue in a perfect spot for us, but because we have under 18s, they won't take us. But I feel like that's probably the number one issue. The number two issue is probably involved in the fact that, like, the drinking side of it. There's been plenty of shows at venues that I'm not going to specify in case we don't get ever allowed to play them again, in which we've sort of basically just been me buying drinks for the individual band members one after the other one at various intervals so we don't get clocked. But I don't know. But this time next year we'll have basically everyone will be 18, so it'll be a problem behind us. But I'd say the number one issue will be probably booking shows where bands they don't want to take bands with under 18s in them. It's a bit of a shame, but it's understandable.
Yeah, I mean it is a bit of a shame because really there's such a big market of people around that age group that it's just not really, you can't do anything. It's like you can't go to these places, you can't play them.
No, I
makes it frustrating.
I totally agree. I think that there's plenty of mates that we have that that definitely, especially when we were just starting as a band, that would have come out to see us and things. But literally, it's the age side of it's a big problem. Like some of the favorite gigs that I've ever played have been, down at Chinnery's, when we have a load of people that are kind of like our age or a bit younger that can't watch us because they're the ones that want to jump around and shove each other about, and that's what we want to see in an audience. But I feel like it is a shame that a lot of venues probably have issues with younger people going there, and I feel like I can totally understand why, because the venues need to keep licensing and they need to keep certain things like that, and they've got a business to run as well, and they've got livelihoods to keep up with people that work there and own that stuff, and I've got total respect for that. I feel like it is just a shame that often bands that want to start up that are our sort of age find themselves quite limited in where they can and can't play because of their age group. But you make a good point. There's definitely an audience for our sort of music at our age, which probably could be tapped into a lot more if venues were allowed more liberal policies when it came to letting certain people in. But often it's not their choice. I mean, we had a gig booked in Chelmsford quite a while ago, actually, at a venue called Hideaways, and at the time we basically organised the whole night and found the other support bands. And it got to a couple of weeks before the show, and they basically said, "Sorry guys, because you're under 18s, we can't have you play." And that was totally not their fault. I mean, they were so supportive with us setting up the show, but it was literally just the fact of the licensing that they couldn't put us on. Luckily, we did get to play there later on, and we've got a video of that on our YouTube, so check that one out. But it's often not their fault and something which is out of their control.
Yeah, no, I know that Hideaways is quite a new venue as well, so they are trying to make it work as much as possible. However, they are getting a lot of walls thrown at them, which is making it very difficult.
It's a really cool venue, to be fair.
Oh, it is. I've played it. It's great.
If you've got some good bands booked there, it's a fairly big capacity. It's nice. Like, the stage is really, really nice. And yeah, you can see the footage of that on our YouTube channel. We filmed a little live video for one of our singles, June Strider, out now on all platforms, and you can see that. It's a really cool venue, but it's kind of understandable with the venues, because the thing is, like, even if you had a venue that was no drinks allowed, it's just literally live music, a stage in the corner, and that's it. Like, okay, fair enough, but you think a lot of people who want to come and see it, they want to grab a drink and have fun, because it's a nice social thing, going to a gig, chatting to people, and people want to have a beer. So it's a bit of a no one wins situation.
I mean, you've got something like Chinnery's, as you said yourself. You get a lot of people around your age group and lower who are able to go in because it is a plus 14 venue.
Yeah, we've definitely got. I mean, we're quite lucky that as we get older, our audience and our mates get older as well, which is quite good. But yeah, I think Chinnery's have always been a venue which is really good to us, so we've only really got positive things to say about them. But yeah, there's definitely some people which I think probably find it difficult to attend shows or play shows because of their age group, and that is obviously like a shame for them. But yeah, there's only so much we can do about that, I suppose. I think it's the sort of thing that's always going to be a problem because as much as you'll get people that want to just come and enjoy the music, you'll get people which also could cause problems because they are of a younger age and things, and venues don't want to risk that, and that's entirely understandable for them, to be honest. But yeah, it's just the tough reality of it, I suppose, for a young band.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more shows anyway, and you guys already very much on the way of playing more shows. I mean, some of you guys played Beast Anglia, which the guy who promoted that, who ran it, managed to get some relatively big headliners as well, which was quite impressive as well, especially quite a new sort of promotion group, I guess. It's like a new event thing. He's managed to get quite large bands, which I really hope he does. After all this, manage to organise more gigs like that.
Yeah, it was cool. He definitely he did a great job of organizing it. Like it was really cool, and I think he did a really good mix of a really good night of gigging should involve a hearty mix of like local bands and then like bigger bands from out of the area. I mean, obviously we're from Essex, and it was a bit of a drive up to Norwich, but like we were totally up for it. And I reckon, I mean, if any promoters listening out there, we'll do a show in Edinburgh as long as it's not on a school night,
Well, even if it is, I feel like a lot of the people in our band are starting to realise that there's a lot more fun involved in doing that than there is in singing lessons sometimes. But
Yeah.
obviously not advocating for anyone bunking lessons, value your education, kids. But also, if you have to bunk lessons to come watch a metal gig, then I can guarantee you're gonna have more fun. Yeah.
You'll just have a better time doing that.
Yeah, it's been factually proven that kids benefit more from going to watch local metal bands play on a Friday night than they do from doing after school education activities.
I mean, it's mosh pit or maths lesson. It's your choice.
And and as a band full of people that can't count past the number 6, I can guarantee you that we've gained more from being able to play music than we have from doing maths.
True that.
Definitely.
All the truths. So, yeah. So another point I wanted to ask is, what are some of the things you guys avoid, like outright avoid doing, or things that you have said that you'll never do, like within the band?
I've got a good one for this.
Go on, Jude.
Writing a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus structure. That is one thing that we have taken particular care of in writing sessions, and we've been doing writing sessions very recently, and we'll probably continue to do that for a while. But one thing we're very conscious of, and Jasper pretty much never shuts up about this, but he's right to, because it is very important, is just to have a very interesting structure. One thing that we are very keen on is making sure that we have a finger on the pulse of what's happening in today's British metal. So, bands, I mean, for some reason, nothing's coming to my head now. Okay, so bands like Loathe, bands that are kind of pushing the envelope a bit. We want to kind of hear what's going on not only in the genre, but in the country, hear what's kind of popular at the moment, and just see if we can kind of work those things in. And it's not a case of completely throwing away our sound. We're trying to establish more of a solid sound for Beyond Extinction, and I think we're getting there. But I think we always try and incorporate a lot of stuff that's happening to try and, I don't know, I'd never like the idea of kind of staying in one place. I like variation. I like it when bands really go forward and try new exciting stuff. I mean, you take Low, for instance, from their first EP to the Cold Sun album, to all the way through to their latest album, the change that they've done is incredible. And even though it's different, it's still loathed and it's still excellent, and I love those guys. So I think that's one thing that we try and steer clear of, is just writing kind of typical structures. We really like to see how much we can get away with without making it kind of unlistenable and, like mathcore.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we've realized, in our writing process as well, that while it's probably easier to write a song which does go verse chorus for us, the sort of genre of music that we're creating often is cohesive to creating a sound which doesn't conform to that. And I feel like there's lots of types of music and lots of types of metal which can fit to a more traditional verse chorus structure because of the sound that they go for, and it definitely works in their favor. You listen to some bands, some metalcore bands, Bury Tomorrow have a lot of songs that are set out in a verse chorus structure and a almost basic structure, which are extremely listenable and consumable songs, which a lot of people love. And for their sound and a lot of other bands' sound, that works perfectly, and is only conducive to things being catchy and consumable. But I think for us, we've kind of realized that when you go for a more abrasive, aggressive sound, you want to have almost an unpredictable structure to your music, and that's especially the things that we've been writing in lockdown. We've had a song that we've been demoing and writing parts to, and I personally am just really happy with that because it presents itself in a way which our music wants to be presented, which is that when you hit that play button for the first time, you don't know what you're going to hear and when you're going to hear it. And when it does hit you, that it hits you hard and that you understand, or that you perceive of it, to be an aggressive style of music written in an aggressive manner. And that's what we want to portray in it, is that we have emotion put behind it, and we have, certain feelings put behind our music. We want that to be portrayed in not only the sound, but the structure that it's written in. So, yeah, I'd agree with Jude that, in answer to your question, Danny, that if there's one thing we avoid, it's trying to make our songs predictable. And I mean, whether that involves sticking an extra breakdown on the end of a song, or making an extension to a verse, or whatever, or changing a tempos between two of our releases.
Freeform jazz.
Yeah, it just it switches up, and that's how we do our music. But we're happy with how we create it. And I'd say the only other thing that I can definitely say that I will avoid doing as a member of a band is probably releasing merchandise unnecessarily, because nothing annoys me more than seeing like bands that release stuff like I don't know, a beanie which has zero kind of actual reason to be released, because it's being released in the middle of summer, but I think they can do it because people can do, because I just feel like that's kind of pointless. But that's more of a personal preference. But on that note, support bands that release merchandise and buy stuff if you want to. But yeah, I just don't get when bands release merch for no reason. That's the one thing that I have a thing against.
I can add on that point that I think one thing for us is that obviously we have merch at our shows, and we've released a few designs. I think probably my favorite would be the shark one that we did. And we've never, I don't think we'll ever be a band that is entirely money orientated. There's a lot of bands that do a very good job of, like Jasper said, kind of, they know people will buy stuff just because. And I don't think that we'll ever be a kind of band like that. And I'll go back to an earlier point of saying that Bury Tomorrow is a very good kind of influence for us, where basically they have always been a band for the fans. They've always done stuff that has been for the music, and they could earn a fortune from meet and greets and personalized signed stuff, but they don't, because it's at a point where the music should be more important than just cash. And I think that's one thing that we really want to pick up, is that obviously it's great to buy merch, and like Jasper said, it's amazing you should support your local musicians and bands and whoever by buying merch and paying for shows and stuff, because it's healthy for the scene and healthy for the bands as well. But I really do think it should be more about the experience of the music and having a good time, rather than being a money making machine. So I think that's one thing that we'll never do, is try and I suppose per se it's not selling out, but you know what I mean, like being more concerned with money than the actual music. I think the music is, because we've learned young you know, we don't, you know, we haven't been paid for a lot of the shows we've been doing, and you know, you could say, well, why bother? But you know, that's not the point. It's the point is we love performing, we love playing to, you know, 10 people or 100, you know, it doesn't matter, as long as someone's there to have fun and enjoy our music, then that's what matters to us. That's what keeps us going. And to hear all the nice comments that we do, and we usually get quite a lot of good feedback from our shows, which is obviously great. You know, it really does make everything worth it. So
Yeah,
I think, you know,
I think that's a good way of putting it. I think that's sort of what I meant by the merge thing is you know there's a lot of bands which seem to find you know there's an unnecessary reason to add things to consume. I feel like the first job of a band is to make it so that people can listen to certain music and enjoy that music. And I feel like there's a lot of bands that get caught up in the production of extra sides of things which aren't the priorities. I feel like you know at first you've got to have a listenership and you've got to create live shows that people enjoy, and then you can look at other sides of it. And you know, like I feel like Danny, your band's a good example of it. Is that you showed up on the scene, you created music and played live shows, and then at the same time you started releasing stuff on streamable services. You then added the stuff like merchandise and things like that. And I think that's the right way to go about it. And I think there's a lot of bands, I think, and it's almost a bit of a fatal error to make, because they commit to other areas like creating merchandise or you know things like that far too early before there's a real market for it. And I feel like we've tried very hard to make sure that we time it right so that when things, you know, extra consumables like merch and stuff like that are available, that they're available when there's an audience for it. And yeah, that's definitely something which is you know important to us.
Yeah, I think personally, when it comes to merchandise, and this is something that I'm only doing myself, like with the t-shirts, it was very much a case of, okay, I'd like us to, you know, we should really get some merch and getting out there. However, at this point, what I'm personally doing a lot more of uh, is asking people, is asking our audience, because now we've built a bit of an audience, and I'm sure you guys are seeing that as well. I'm pretty sure your audience is bigger than ours. Is you have so much more power to know what people want. Back in before, let's say pre-Facebook, you just release stuff and hope it works. Now you can literally ask people and say, okay, we've got these 3 designs. Which one of these do you like? So it's not a case of something that, oh, you know, we've just put it out, people just got to buy it. People have more
yeah.
of a choice now of what they
Yeah,
want,
100%.
and you can learn what your fans want more than what you were able to before. But then you need to build the audience first, and so on. So it's a very vicious cycle in
Yeah,
itself.
100%. Yeah, I feel like as you say, it's kind of, you know, you create things to the will of the consumer, because at the end of the day, like as much as being a band is an art form and it's a way of expressing yourself, it's also, you know, you're creating a product for people and you want to see if they consume it and how they do and you know when they want to. And there's no point committing to putting out loads of extra stuff which you don't need when you haven't got the consumer base for it. And you know that's you know, as you say, it's kind of you can gauge what people want to see and what they want to buy and what they want to, you know, be able to get involved with as you go along. And social media's definitely helped with that. And you know, luckily it does mean that bands that are committing to buying merch and stuff nowadays and putting merch out and things, that's often done in the right way and with the right audience there. And it is a shame to see when, you know, you get musicians that you know make a commitment like that but don't get the response to it, which often other bands do, which is, you know, you know, it's a shame. But as you say, yeah, social media helps gauge, you know, what there is to put out and how it's going to be received, and it's definitely really helpful.
Yeah, I think you don't really want to think of it like a business, but you kind of have to think of your band as a bit. You at least have
Definitely,
to be
yeah,
very conscious of uh, a band is, you know, it's like a business. It's a constantly moving thing. It's not just you put something out and then you're instantly famous. Like you have to really consistently work at stuff, and not only work at stuff, but constantly improve and gauge your audience. You know, constantly post stuff like, would you, you know, what merch design do you like? Would people be interested in XYZ, whatever, you know? And you have to think of it as a long-term thing, because I think where a lot of bands, obviously not everybody, not every band that is in the local scene makes it, very, very, very small percentage of people do. And, you know, it is probably 10% talent and 90% hard work, planning, dedication. I mean, we've all sacrificed is the wrong word, because that sounds like we've lost a lot, but we've
Invested.
all kind of sacrificed a lot of time and money and effort into the band. But that's because that is the only way that you can do it, because at the end of the day, if you just sit there and wait for people to come to you, it's never going to happen.
No, it doesn't. It is the way I see it. At least it's you need to have a passion for it. You have to enjoy doing it. You definitely do have to love doing it. Like literally every interview that you read, from Dave Grohl all the way to Corpse Grinder, you have to love what you're doing. Have you do, as you said, you have to be conscious of it being a business as well. You need to find the point where, because you have people who literally just play and they cry about, oh, why haven't I made it? Because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to present what you have to other people. You don't know how to market yourself, which is the reality of it. You have to market yourself. But then there's the point of, then you get to the extremes, like Kiss, as an example. We'd all like a bit of Kiss money, but but then you've got that extreme of Kiss where they're literally selling bags of air. I mean, if you can sell that, that's incredible. But you have to find, I think in today's age, especially with the fact that most bands are independent nowadays and don't rely on record companies and gatekeepers like they used to, you have to find that middle point of being a business and something that you passionately enjoy. The way I always put it to people is, yeah, you can try, and if you want to do this as a job, good. Don't be scared of calling it a job or trying to turn it into a job, because if that's what you want to do, great. What do you want to do? Do you want to spend your life behind a guitar? It's like, yeah, there's crap bits that you're not going to enjoy, like with anything that you do. However, you can either do something that you enjoy and have a few crap bits, or you can do something that you hate and just generally just hate it.
Yeah, I think our aim, and you know, hopefully I'm speaking for all the guys, and you know, maybe Jasper can back me up, but I think our aim is really to keep going really, really hard on the progress that we've made. And you know, we never take anything for granted. It'd be really easy for us to rest on our laurels and say, you know, we've opened for cancer bats, we're the dog's bollocks, you know, we're great, you know, sign us, book us. But you know, at the end of the day, we are still at the bottom of a very, very, very tall ladder. And to be aware of that, I think, is a massive advantage, where we don't take anything for granted, and our aim is really just to continue what we're doing, work really, really hard, and kind of, no matter what it takes, we want to do this for the rest of our lives, or at least for a long period of time, and we want to do it as our main thing in life. Because I know that, you know, the first time I got on stage, it was a defining moment for me, where, you know, I messed up a lot and I was very nervous, but as soon as I got up there and started playing, I just felt, wow, this is who I am. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. And I think our aim is really just to work hard and really, really push to do it, because I this again sounds cheesy, but I truly do believe that, you know, you can do anything if you put the right amount of hard work and effort into it. And you know, we try and kind of work smart as well. We don't just work really, really hard, but then, you know, only play, you know, crap venues. You know, we try and balance, you know, the hard work with forward planning, and trying to understand what our audience would be like, and looking up to all the bands that we kind of idolize, and just trying to reach for the stars with what we're doing. And I know that it's very difficult, and pretty much anyone who is listening, who, you know, wants to be a musician, or or already is successful will know that the first thing that people say when you say you want to be a musician is, oh, well, you know how hard it is, right? It's so hard to get into it. Why don't you just do something easy? Why don't you just get a proper job? And it's like that. If you can break past that and really, really, really know what you want to kind of be doing with music, I think, the only thing stopping you is, well, what is stopping you,
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that I personally respect a great amount about you guys. Your humility. It'd be very, as you guys know yourselves, you can get into a bubble of like an echo chamber of people just saying, "Yeah, congratulations, great." It's like, oh, why aren't we growing? Sort of thing. But you guys are very humble, and you, a lot of bands, even older bands, who would have reached what you guys currently have already, would very easily get into the rut of becoming very arrogant.
Yeah, I think
And just
as well, it's the thing that I did have a point to say, but it's just completely just gone out my head.
I mean,
it'll come back.
personally for me, that sort of thing is really really important to keep a track of, because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of bands that every show they play, they'll have people come up to them and go, "Hey, great set, guys, well done," that sort of thing, like that, as almost just kind of like a regular response to it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good to be supportive and nice to people and things, but what is also important is that to realize that, number one, when people say that, they might not always mean it, so it's important to keep that in mind. And number two, even if they do mean it, and even if every show you play, you have 50 people come up to you or 100 people come up to you and say that was an amazing set, like, can't wait to see you guys play again, you still have to earn the fact that they've committed to you economically by paying to see you play, and they've committed to you with their time and stuff. And that, just because they've told you that you play well, it doesn't give you a guarantee or a right to the time and money they've spent watching your band and
I just
or committed
remembered.
to the band. But yeah, I think it's super important to make sure you remember that no matter how many people think that you're really good at what you do, unless you keep making sure that they know that you appreciate it, eventually people are going to get sick and tired of it. Because as a consumer of this sort of music myself, I know that if it seemed like the support and stuff that I put into other bands wasn't appreciated, then as a person it's going to make me really put off of them. So, you know, whatever responses we get and whatever kind of reaction we get to our music and our live shows, and whether it's positive or negative, it's important to make sure that we try and show, and we do mean it when we say that people are hugely appreciative when they commit to supporting us.
Yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say. I was going to pretty much say that point, but I was just going to say one thing that we always kind of do, and I don't think we've ever really kind of, I suppose, directly talked about this as a band to each other. But one thing I've certainly noticed that we all do in the band is whenever okay, so take something like opening for Cancer Bats or playing Norwich or, playing wherever. One thing that we've always done is when we've played something big or done something big, we got added to quite a few fairly big Spotify playlists recently, and our Spotify listeners have massively jumped up, and it's all been fantastic. But one thing we never ever do is go, "Oh, that's brilliant, well deserved rest, let's pack it in for a bit, let's ride on this success." We never ever take it for granted like that. We never rest on our laurels. Like I said, we always go, right, that's great, that's given us this chance to go even further, that's given us a platform to which we can progress to be even better. And I think that even if we were playing big venues and we're getting into magazines and stuff, we would still have that same ambition and fire to keep going and keep going, because at the end of the day, that's how it works, that's how you make it, that's how you do it as a band. Just have this unending kind of momentum that you try and keep going with, and just show that you are willing to, you're hungry for the success, really.
So Jasper, did Jude essentially just take credit for something you just said?
Yeah, he's basically just rocked up and repeated what I said and claimed it as his own, which we'll be having stern words about later on, I'm sure.
Oh
But no,
Jesus.
I think you summed it up well. That's what it is. Is that, you know, if you want to be successful in the climate that the bands are in, and if you know if you want to be one of the tiny percentage of bands that do make it to be successful, you've got to spend every opportunity progressing further, and every good thing that happens to us, I think that a good way of putting it is that we see it as more of a step than a finishing line, and that, you know, you've got to reach each step, and that every time you do, there's still more to climb, and that's what it comes down to with us, is that, you know, we've been speaking to a lot of people recently. I mean, me myself, I do a lot of the kind of quote unquote management side of things with the band, and a lot of what's been happening recently for me is just kind of saying, well, positive things here, but I don't really see it as justification for getting, you know, PR deals or putting stuff to labels or whatever like that, or trying to book bigger shows. I see it more as just a part of the experience and part of the learning curve, which we can say we now know how to deal with these things. And, you know, getting good response from people isn't on its own just a reason to claim, you know, value and success. Getting good response from people is more of a motivation. I think I see it as how to succeed. And I feel like, you know, Danny, you yourself being in a band, you understand that every time something good happens, as much as that you have so many urges to go, I'm just going to think about that constantly and just let that play around my head all the time. You're going to need to create new material. You're going to need to put yourself out in different ways and you know, and show stuff. And even when, you know, negative things happen or things don't get received as well as you want to, it's still a learning curve in the same way that when positive things happen.
Did Jasper just take something from you, Jude? No, I'm joking. No, that is very well summarised, Jasper. No, I completely understand that. And no, I can relate to that quite a lot in that regard. No, that's yeah, that's very well put. In that regard, what is it you guys have planned for the future? If there's anything that you can talk about, are we gonna see an extra member in the band? Are we getting Dune Strider Part 2, the Dune Stridening?
I think,
Electric Boogaloo.
yeah, I think that we I mean, when it comes to things we have planned, it's, I mean, I don't think we could have ever said over the entire time being a band that we had, you know, that we never had stuff planned in the future, because we always have ideas. I mean, all I can say now as a definite is that we have one definite song which will be going to the studio as soon as we can do to get recorded and released, which I personally absolutely love, and I know the other guys in the band are really keen on, and that we are hopefully, once gigging is allowed, we don't obviously know when that is, going to stick on a really kind of big event for us, going to play a headline show in Southend. We're hoping to stick it on at the Railway. RJ, Reese, is the guy that runs that, and he's been great with us, and you know, he's a good friend of the band, and he's a nice guy, and yeah, he's been, you know, he's been very clear that he'd love to help us put that on, and that's a show that we'd love to do. So basically, I'd say that whenever we can do, and once we can get back to screaming our loud, aggressive music at people, we want to stick a big headline show on, try and sell a venue out, and stick a new single out there, get some PR behind it, and you know, we've been speaking to a PR company recently about, you know, trying to progress and push forward our music to a larger audience, and see where that takes us, really. And hopefully in the next few releases we put out, we can build on the good response we've had to our last singles, and and just see where that takes us, and hopefully the audience gets bigger, the people that want to see us gets bigger, and we can use that to build some momentum up and see what happens. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds for us. I think we've got a lot of promise and a lot of really cool things ahead of us.
Exactly, and once that show does go ahead, as Reese is such a sweetheart, don't forget people to buy as many drinks from the Railway as you can, as it is a pub, and currently all pubs are struggling during this, and there's some pubs, which I'm not going to mention, who will just fire their staff and tell them to work at Tesco.
Yeah,
I think I know which pubs that you mean.
there's definitely as if we've never had an excuse to go and buy excessive amounts of alcohol from venues before. If you ever needed a reason to do it, as soon as we can get back to going to them, this is a great one. And hopefully if we can raise some money and sort out a charity to raise some money for with a headline show that we put on, we'll hopefully try and raise some money for independent venue week, something like that. But yeah, that's all to be seen yet. But yeah, you make a very good point. If when we can go back to pubs and venues and stuff like that, you have an alcohol addiction to feed, or you just want to get a little bit mental on the first night out, then spend your money in places that definitely deserve it.
Exactly. Plus, doing a bit of a segue here, but you guys ran Marine Metal last year, which done very, very well.
Yeah.
And the charity for that was Mines.
Yeah, that was a really special event for us. It was. I doubt we ever anticipated to get as much money as we raised. I can't remember how much was it, Jasper, in the
It was we I mean, I can't put an exact figure on it, but we broke £1,000 on the money raised that night. I mean, some of it had to go to the venue, Chinneries, who actually I want to say as well on record were really, really generous and basically just said that if we could cover the door fee and the float fee, something like that, then all the rest of it went straight to the charity. So we were definitely around the £1,000 mark for them, which was absolutely awesome. And so many people who hopefully will be listening to this went and supported that, which we are hugely grateful for. And I'm really proud that we had a big part to play in that. And also, Danny, shout out to you and the guys in Perilla for opening that up for us and starting off what was a really great day.
Oh, we had to open that. That was literally the only slot we could do.
I remember when we started putting that on, we were looking at the bands to put on with that show, and we sort of found a handful at first. And then me and Mark from Walking Coma, who had a massive part to play in putting it on, and I can't give enough credit to, literally like the floodgates opened from messages from just so many bands. Can we get playing this, down there? It was immensely hard to pick, but I feel like the bands that we chose to play that day were just full of great people who had fun playing their sets, who really talented people and helped raise a lot of money for a really good cause. So that was, yeah, I remember when we first had the idea of putting that on, and it birthed itself into what it was, is something which everyone who's involved can be super proud of.
Definitely. And I so hope that next year, once this virus crap blows over, that hopefully Marine Metal can return and be about 10 million times better, and have some amazing bands again, and we can try and make it as well, even more amazing than it was last year. So keep your eyes peeled, everybody, especially next year. Keep your eyes peeled. We're going to try and really play a lot of shows and do a lot of stuff next year. This year was supposed to be Beyond Extinction's year.
Yeah.
You can see how that panned out. But, that's the same with every band. So I think we'll just take it with a pinch of salt this year. But next year, really, it is going to be, we are going to step it up a lot. And we hope that everyone who's continued to support us and been there for us is really going to be there for the journey, because ultimately we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for some people enjoying our music, coming out to see us. And I remember the last Chinneries gig we played in Southend, there was a lady who came up to me, and I don't know who she is, probably one of the other guys might know, but she came up to me and she said, "Oh, I just want to say that was a great show." And I was like, "Oh, thank you very much." And she said, I came out tonight just to see you guys. It's the second, I think she said it was a third time. She said she'd seen us at Marine Metal when we'd opened for Cancer Bats. And then this was the third time. I think this was December last year. And that really was just like, wow, like that's mental. And then she said the killer line, which was, "Oh, it was really worth hiring a babysitter." And I thought, my God, this woman has come out of her house, got a babysitter to come down to see a bunch of kids like go around on stage and go Brr. Like that just blew my mind. It's like that is exactly why I want to do this, because that's what I would do for a band.
Yeah, my moment of that was because we opened for Cancer Bats on the 19th of August. So I remember it was a really cool period because we got the go ahead for saying that we were opening for them sort of start of August time. And then I went to Bloodstock, and Daddy, I saw you there. And Cancer Bats opened the main stage, or were one of the first bands on the main stage on the Saturday. And I remember standing there watching them around about like 3,000 people, thinking in literally a week's time, I'm going to be on stage with these guys. And then we played with them, and that was huge. And then we played a gig in Norwich at the start of September last summer. And I spoke to a guy afterwards, and I never caught his name. So if you're listening, massive shout out to you. He came up, I think, with a friend or two, and he said, "Yeah, we saw you guys play with Cancer Bats. We wanted to come watch you again, and we saw you on the bill." And like, to me, that's just kind of, it's huge, because
That was
like
mad.
as much as we take this as seriously as we do, and we want to make a career out of this, we want to put everything we have into it. It's still in our mind at this stage a very early level, and to see people commit to us that much, and to see us play once and not only think that that was good, but have it, you know, as justification for going and putting their money and time to seeing us again, is something which we can't put into words how much we appreciate. And you know, we're very lucky that we're, all of us in the band are very privileged that we've had the upbringings and been born around the places and you know, the people that we have been, to have supportive people and communities around us to do what we do. And we can't really say thank you enough to everyone who has supported us. People like you, Danny, for putting on these interviews and stuff to speak to us and playing shows with us and things, and just everyone who's ever come out to watch us play or put us on a lineup. We can't really thank you enough. And you know, it's a journey which has just started, and hopefully there's a lot more people at the end of it that we can say thank you to as well.
Thank you very much. I mean, in that regards, playing with you guys, it's always pleasant. You guys are always polite, and you're always nice. I mean, I remember when we played The Edge together. I think that was the first time I've used my wireless mic. I was like, "Oh, can I use it?" I'm like, "Yeah, here you go, mate." And I have no problem lending gear to you guys, because I know you guys will look after it.
Exactly, yeah, and also we have really good hygiene levels, so we wouldn't pass diseases to you by sharing it. Because I can guarantee I did have a shower within a week of that gig date, Danny. So that microphone will be coming back spick and span. Don't you worry about it.
Exactly. I mean, the biggest shame I personally find about lockdown was, I think lockdown happened just a few days before we were supposed to share the stage together for Metal to the Masses in Essex.
Yeah.
Yes, it did, man. Oh, honestly, that when it got, because we knew in our minds that would be cancelled for weeks before it was, but it just, every day that it wasn't was a little bit of hope it built that maybe it won't get cancelled, and maybe just it will swing itself around. And like, I mean, that day there were so many bands on that bill which we're good friends with. I mean, you guys, Arms to Oblivion springs to mind. Those guys have always been great to us, that we played with a few times as well. And like, it was just such a shame, because that, even, you know, it's a competitive night, and everyone wants to kind of, you know, outdo each other in a way. But at the end of the day, what that is it's a display of playing shows with people which you're friends with and you've built relationships with, and you know, it was just going to be fun. Whether we played the worst set of our lives or the best set of our lives, it was going to have been a really great show, just to see, you know, loads of our friends in bands play around us and be able to support each other. So I'm having every single body part which I can do crossed, that goes ahead again for Bloodstock 2021, and that we can have the same lineup there, and that hopefully it's a good standard. I know it'll be a good quality and a good standard of competition, and we'll all have fun and all enjoy ourselves playing it.
Exactly. I mean, speaking of Bloodstock, isn't it amazing how much of this year's lineup they've managed to keep for next year?
Definitely, 100%. I was really happy, because when they did the first couple of announcements, there weren't too many bands which I was particularly excited about. And I remember they released one announcement, probably about, I think it was probably a third or fourth announcement for bands that they did, and like every single name I saw on that list just absolutely just like excited me so much. I mean, there's bands that are quite new to the scene, like Viscera, for example, who Jamie Graham, the ex Heart of a Coward and Silosis vocalist, that's his new band, and they were playing it. And then Bury Tomorrow, obviously, bands like that. And I feel like what the bands that were due to be playing this year, it really showed a forward-thinking mentality from Bloodstock of we can't just book the same bands over and over again, which, you know, a lot of the fan base would be happy with. We've got to look forward and look into the new bands which are coming through in you know, in the worldwide metal scene, and they really did with the bands that they booked. And I'm really excited to see the bands play next year, the ones that they managed to retain. I think the fact that they basically done 80% of all of the bands that they booked for this year for next year only goes to show as testament for how how important and also how like loved that festival is by so many people.
Yeah, it's just a shame that Behemoth couldn't make it.
I was really looking forward to them. They were the headliner I was most excited for as well.
Like personally, like with last year, I've always wanted to see Dimmu Borgir. I've wanted to see them for years. Last year, like, yeah, great, I get to see Dimmu. Then a few days before, sorry, he's ill, he can't come. Like, no. And then I almost missed Cradle of Filth. I always wanted to see Cradle of Filth. Then they moved them to the day after because the winds.
Yeah.
Then they moved Batushka to the Sophie Lancaster stage. It's really bizarre. Like that entire.
I mean, I had to doff my hat to them to say, well, fair play for managing to basically keep every band on. I think that they did a really good thing because they said that anyone who had Saturday tickets were allowed to entry for the Sunday because obviously Cradle of Filth got their set moved or something like that. And I think that was really good of them to do. I mean, I was just so happy that Parkway Drive got to play because being my favourite band, that was the main reason that I bought tickets to Bloodstock. Because literally, if the ticket was just based on the camping in a field for 5 days and only Parkway Drive playing once, I still would have got tickets to it. To be honest with you,
yeah, I mean, that was really controversial as well.
Yeah, but I think they were received really well. I think that there was a huge audience for them. I think a lot of people ended up leaving that arena on that Saturday with a changed perception of it because it is, and I totally understand that people that have been part of the metal scene for 40, 50 years that have seen bands like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and stuff like grow and become the big like titans of the scene. I can totally understand how they could probably feel uncomfortable with other bands taking what is probably seen as their places as headliners of big festivals like Bloodstock. But I feel like, the response that there was when Parkway Drive were announced was obviously mixed. A lot of people were upset that, bands that aren't, a band that isn't, kind of traditional or like a classic headliner act in the metal scene wasn't put in their place. A lot of people were angry about that. But then the show itself, I mean, anyone who was there, I feel like can safely say, even if it wasn't your type of music, that they put on a hell of a show. And, people had to respect the fact that even if it's not the type of metal that you necessarily like, that that they did a hell of a job in putting on a performance for people, and a lot of people left that arena with their minds changed. I think
last year's lineup was very different to the year before, because the year before was very sort of equalised into like people's tastes. Same as with what would have been this year, but the year before it was very much a roller coaster. Like if you just look at the headliners themselves, you've got Sabaton. Then you've got Parkway Drive, who have completely different audiences. And then just kicking at a completely different angle, you've got Scorpions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Sunday was quite a throwback day, and it was quite good for me to just have a day to relax at the end of it, really, because there were a handful of bands that played on the Sunday that I was really keen on seeing. Harbinger, for example, were on the Sophie stage, and I really loved their set. But I totally agree. I think there was definitely appeal to lots of different types of metal listeners. I mean, I on the day that we got there on the Thursday, Rotting Christ were headlining, which as a band, I think just they're fantastic, and I had a great time watching them. The Saturday, or maybe that was the Thursday. The Friday was Sabaton, Powerwolf, like a lot of power metal there, and I absolutely love that stuff. I mean, I was lucky enough to go see Sabaton at Wembley. My girlfriend got me tickets to that. Shout out to Elodie for that one. But yeah, that was fantastic. So I'm a big Sabaton fan, and then as you say, a big mix of bands over the whole time. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because you look at the price of the tickets compared to a lot of festivals. If you have one day full of bands that you really like and the other days are still just kind of exploring different bands that you might not listen to, you can't be angry about that.
No, I mean, the bigger the mix, the better, because then you just fill out everyone's taste. Because, yeah, everyone likes different things.
Download last year was like that as well for me. I went Download 2019, and it really was a very weird concoction of bands. I think from what I can remember, there was your typical festival bands. You had Skin Dread, and you had, well, there was quite an interesting and unique kind of roster of bands. There was the Smashing Pumpkins. There was Slipknot, obviously did the headliner show, which was incredible. There was Slayer doing their last ever UK show. There was Tool doing their first, UK show since 2006, if I'm unless I stand corrected. And there was just a ton of really interesting up and coming bands, and even really popular bands. And I remember going into, I had a complete contrast because I was standing at one of the stages to the right of the main stage at Download on the Friday, and I was watching Opeth, who I absolutely adore. And it was really open, really relaxed. And then I remember the next day I was crammed into this absolutely tiny tent watching Whitechapel, and I had to actually evacuate the tent after 3 songs because I was literally getting crushed to death, because everybody, I think half the people at Download crammed into that tent to see Whitechapel play. And the same with Ginger. I saw the Aussie band 12 Foot Ninja, who are one of my favorite bands. And I remember I went out to get a hot dog or something because I was like, oh, it's going to be 20 minutes before Ginger come and play. And Ginger was a band I'd wanted to see for so long.
That's sick, man.
Clearly everybody else had the same idea, because I exited the tent, got a hot dog. I turned around to go back in the tent. And when I say the crowd was spilling out of the tent, I mean the entire tent was full to the brim, and even the bits that were leaving the tent were literally packed crowd. You could not enter that tent, and I missed the entirety of Ginger's set because I could not get back in there. So I love the fact that you get so much of a variation at some festivals. I mean, I remember I think I was going to like pack my car up on the last day, and I remember hearing Enter Shikari playing at one of the other more alternative tents. And I think that's great, because you can pretty much invite anyone who even vaguely likes rock or metal to these festivals. And another thing, like what Jasper said about not knowing some bands and then coming and then really enjoying them, and having new fans of the band. It would be fantastic for us to play Bloodstock or Download or whatever festival, and have absolutely no one know who we are, step on stage, and by the end of our set, have even just 10 more people who like our music. I think that would just be fantastic. And so I think that's one of the reasons we were so gutted that the Bloodstock Metal to the Masses show was cancelled, because again, it was going to be a fantastic night in itself, even if we didn't get through. But I think just the idea of us playing Bloodstock, knowing that we generally get a pretty good reception at our shows, would just be beyond our wildest dreams, and hopefully it will still go ahead.
So to be able to play a festival like that, I mean, whether it's on the Metal to Masses stage or whether we'd be booked as the main headliner for the whole festival, it wouldn't matter how it was. But to be able to be put on a bill with bands like that, and to be able to expose our music to new people, would be absolutely, just a dream come true for us. And hopefully it happens one day, and hopefully we can warrant getting there. And there's enough people that would say, yeah, we want to see these guys play. But we've got to earn that, and that's something which I feel like, when you see these awesome festivals with amazing lineups and stuff, and Danny being in a band, you'll know this, that you got to earn your place with those things. That's something that we want to definitely do.
Exactly. I mean, with Metal to the Masses, it has a very special place in my heart, because that is the first place that we as a band performed, and it's the first gig that I've ever played. So whether we ever get to play Bloodstock or not, getting to play Metal to the Masses is always will always be a pleasure, because it's holds such a special memory to me personally.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something which and you yourself probably more than us guys will be appreciative of, because that if it wasn't for the opportunities that Bloodstock put on, and the Metal to the Masses sort of system allow people to play, then that first gig wouldn't have happened for you guys, and then hundreds of bands that have played Bloodstock before wouldn't have been added to the bill. And I think that's you'll definitely able to be testament to the fact that if it wasn't for that, then you guys wouldn't have had that first gig and that first moment on stage. So we've got to totally take our hats off and appreciate the work that those guys put in, and what they do for the UK metal scene, and also internationally as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's really great as well is seeing a local band on the local stage, and then seeing them play Bloodstock. Because out of when I went Bloodstock last year, I went to go see Goat Monsoon, who won Metal to the Masses last year, and that was during the Cancer Bed set as well. And I know you're quite bitter that I left, because I told you as well. Like, how could you, damn man?
it was a shame that I missed Goat Monsoon. I mean, luckily for me, because me, my girlfriend, Niall, our drummer, and Zach, our guitarist, well, we all went to the Metal to the Masses final, and saw those guys play and stuff, and then we were lucky that we did a gig with Goat Monsoon and Forged in Black a while back at
Yes, I
Chimneries.
was at that. I got merch from every band that night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was such a great show. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like it's a shame I missed them at Bloodstock and stuff and missed seeing them there. But I've gigged with them since then. They're great people and they know their craft very very well, and they create a great brand of music for the sort of genre that they're going for. And you have to take your hats off and go. Those guys were a great band to represent Essex in the Metal to the Masses. And then you think, but for being at that gig, Danny, you'll know that like any of the bands that would have won that final would have represented Essex in such a good way. Yeah. And like for example, like going there, I have to say personally, I was rooting for Walking Coma because those guys have just been beyond helpful to us. Like I can't put into words how much they've done for us and how much they've helped us develop as a band. If it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't even still be doing this stuff. So I obviously was rooting for those guys. And it didn't annoy me in the sense that they didn't win because that I just wanted them to win, because that I was just happy that a band that were deserved placeholders on Bloodstock's lineup were they got their just reward. And those guys in Goat Monsoon are a great band who we've had the pleasure of playing with, as are all the guys that competed in the Metal to the Masses competition. And that's one of the things I think we're lucky about, that we're in a region of the country in Essex where there's just so many great bands to pick from, and we should all be very happy that we're in and around such awesome musicians.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say how bitter I was about losing, but yeah, no, that's a lot better. No, they're all lovely guys. I've talked to some of the members every so often when I do see them at gigs and online and things. They're all lovely, they're all sweethearts, they're all absolutely fantastic people. So they well deserve to win that. And especially after seeing them at Bloodstock as well, they did really, really well.
Yeah, they released their EP Alpha Kings recently as well, so we may as well plug them while we're here. Go check that out, because those guys put out a really fucking awesome EP with Alpha Kings. If you like your hard and fast rock and roll, and you like some heavy stuff spiced in with the rock and roll music, then
like
definitely
Doom Stoner Metal, isn't it?
Doom Stoner rock and roll. You know what, Danny? You can put whatever label on you want.
I don't like chucking these labels on. It's
exactly, yeah.
It's how you get found. Like I don't like referring my band as an industrial metal band, but that's the closest fit I can find.
Well, shall we say what we'll do is I'll say insert whatever subgenre you want to call Go Monsoon here. End of your inserting subgenre there.
Metal.
Is what Goat Monsoon are. Go check out their new EP Alpha Kings, or newish EP Alpha Kings, because it's sick and those guys create great music.
Actually,
I would like to just quickly interject with a shameless plug for my own music, which I thought would be fairly immoral to do, but I'm going to do regardless. So I won't take long, because I know it's a bit of a piss take, but I have an EP coming out on May 29th, a solo project, rock/metal. So check that out if anyone cares. I also will have a song coming out, which is a remix by Perilla's very own Danny Mesmer.
Hello.
Which is a remix of my song Black Mass from my first EP. So look out for that coming out probably middle of June, end of June. Danny, you've done
time has no meaning anymore, Jude. It's fine.
Yes.
Literally, I don't know what the days of the week are anymore, Jude. Just say it's out after X amount of sleeps, because that's the only way anyone can judge anything anymore.
It's out like take your age -1, then times by 2. Then that is when it's coming out.
And see, Jasper said at the beginning of the show, math doesn't matter. Jude has just applied this.
We've proved here that to be an awesome death metal band, you don't need to be able to do basic mathematics or know what the days of the week are. So next time, I
don't even know where Malaysia is.
Yeah, I mean, that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Where has that come from?
Also, Jasper, just a very quick one. In regards to the Goat Monsoon release, they've actually released a live EP from Bloodstock last year. That is their latest release.
I didn't know that. That's
You said Alpha King. I thought I'm sure they've released something else. So I just googled it. I was like, yes, they did release something else. So it was
Wow,
really
I
bugging me,
must
and I really need to set that straight.
Danny's exposed me. Okay,
Jasper, that is
um,
malicious falsehood.
check out their second latest released Alpha Kings, and also their latest one, which is Alpha Kings live version in brackets or whatever. But those guys, yeah, I mean, the point still stands. Listen to their music, whichever release that is. Just go and listen to it. I feel like we started off this trying to plug them just as a little nice thing once, and we've ended up spending like the last 15 minutes discussing the various releases and dates of releases of Goat Monsoon's music.
I think I just need to have them on next. They're the next
Yeah,
band they need to be on because
It's logical.
otherwise it doesn't make sense.
yeah. Basically, from now on, Danny, you need to scrap any sort of interviews over any other bands and exclusively just talk to Goat Monsoon once a week and put it online.
8 episodes, Goat Monsoon. Just
Yeah, literally, yeah.
The goatening, the goat monsooning. Nah, I like the goatening more. But yeah, Jude's got his solo project, which is having a release. You actually have another album out for that already, don't you?
what? Yes. You mean my first EP? Yes.
Yes, it is an EP, isn't it? Sorry, mate. Yeah, no, my bad.
I was like, oh shit, what have I released?
Jude forgot that he made an entire EP worth of music and released it literally like a month ago.
Yeah, it's like, Jude, don't you remember the 3 concept albums that you released?
Honestly, it's the radiation that comes off of my Mac. It's giving me irreversible brain damage. No, yes,
Is that the theme of your progressive rock album?
It is. It's progressive in that it's progressively killing me.
Yeah, did you know that if you listen to Beyond Extinction's music, it also gives you irreversible brain damage? It's a consistent theme in the music the members of our band put out.
If you listen to it at like 150 decibels with headphones on, it will definitely give you some kind of damage. Please, anyone listening, do not do that. I do not endorse that. That is a joke. Please do not do that. We are not liable.
Yeah, there you go. No lawsuits for you, Danny. You're welcome.
Yes.
That's
anyway,
fine.
but back to me. Yes. So yeah, I do have an EP out. It's kind of my start off EP, just some ambient and electronic tracks. But the new EP that I've got coming out May 29th is called Drowning. It's 4 tracks, and they're all kind of rock / metal. There's some really interesting kind of things in there. I've tried to keep the kind of electronic elements, but it's a lot more rock and metal, all vocals, and guitars are fully, all guns blazing for that EP. I'm really, really proud of how it's come out. I've done pretty much, I've done everything on it myself, from the mixing and the mastering and the recording. So if it sounds like crap, that's why. But I'm really, really excited to get it out. And I've always, going back to the band as well, I think we all have kind of side projects. Our drummer Niall has another band, Burnt Orange, that he
I've seen them live.
But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Beyond Extinction is most important. But we like to have side projects and stuff, and it's definitely nice for me to work out my more kind of melodic side, so that when I go into Beyond Extinction, it's not, I'm not trying to write melodic stuff into it and it doesn't really make sense. I can just go in there like, yeah, metal.
So with a summary for Jude's new release, if you really liked the atmospheric ambient stuff, fuck you, because now he's writing something different. That's very different.
Basically,
that doesn't congregate with what he's done before at all. So this is what Jude likes now. Accept it.
Yeah, he said basically he's put work and effort and emotion into creating one style of music. And after people have listened to that and committed to liking that, he said that you're going to have to basically ignore all of your instincts and as to why you'd even listen to his music in the first place, because he's just creating an entire new sound.
I'm sorry to my 6 monthly listeners. You're going to be disappointed. I like fine. The progression, really. I've wanted to do rock and metal, but pretty much my first EP was kind of just seeing what I can do on Logic Pro, writing some stuff that's fairly cohesive. But what you're going to see from my next EP and the next releases I'm going to do is truly what I want to be working towards creating. And truly me, which sounds very cheesy, and but that
And if
it is what
there's
it
ever
is.
a reason not to listen to music, it's because it's got Jude's emotion in it, and he is unstable and should not be fit for public consumption. That
Yes, I
that's
have to put my emotion somewhere, otherwise, well, refer
otherwise
to the
kill
incident. Yeah, refer to the incident.
again. Do not think about the event.
Yes, that place had to be closed for deep cleaning for a month.
And I'm very sorry that there's a remix of one of the songs. It's I think I sped it up by
Yeah,
an extra like 100 beats per minute from
yeah,
the original.
Just so it finished faster, so people could stop worrying about the problems that Jews would cause them afterwards.
I think I've definitely very much changed the atmosphere of that particular song.
I love it. Honestly, I really, really, I do like it, and it's a massive throwback for me because electronic music was the first music I ever got into. And I used to listen to Deadmau5 and Boys Noise and Daft Punk and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to kind of go back to my roots a little bit. But don't get me wrong, the stuff I'm writing now in the EP, there are electronic elements in it, and I think that's always going to stay there because that is a big part of my musical kind of journey. But it is, it is more rock and metal. So if you don't like that, then boo-hoo, go cry in a corner.
Danny, can I switch the topic real quick?
Yeah, because I think we're talking a bit much about Jude's solo project. This is for Beyond Extinction.
I don't
That's fine,
think
Jude.
we're
I'll have
talking enough
you
about
on
my
another
solo
time
project.
if you want to talk about your solo project. But Jasper's here too.
Yeah, can I switch up and can I become interviewer for just one question? And can I ask you, what do you think are five or just a handful maybe of recent releases in the sort of metal community, whether that's like local or worldwide or whatever, that you've really enjoyed recently? And it could be anything from your own band's music to music released by Lamb of God or something like that. Just anywhere in
Yeah.
between them. What like a few releases have you found recently that you've really enjoyed?
Well, this is really weird. The interviewer becomes the interviewee. But
Yeah.
personally, some of the bands that I've really enjoyed. I'll go with five. One. It sounds very self-congratulatory. Our own EP that we've released, it was mixed, mastered, recorded all by ourselves.
You did a hell of a job as well.
Thank you. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll see in it now that I'm like, fuck, no, fuck. But no, generally, I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad it's released. It's something that I've been sitting on for far too long. That I've been wanting to release for far easier than that. Unfortunately, we lost half the band during that, which hopefully during this album doesn't happen. But I don't have the feeling that's going to happen this time around.
You seem like you got a good committed new guys in the band. I mean, I can't say that I know the new guys in the band well at all because I actually haven't met them yet. But from the stuff that you've been putting on the socials and stuff, it looks like they're as committed as you are, which is really good to see.
Look forward to meeting them.
Yeah,
oh
definitely.
yeah, no, they're lovely guys. They're all really sweet. Chris is doing most of the mixing now because I'm shit at doing it. And to be fair, he did a lot of it in Small Psychosis, which has been very good. It was very nice seeing that.
Awesome.
Yeah, moving away from my band because I can do other interviews. I don't need my own platform to talk about myself. Another one would be Red Method, which played Bloodstock last year, and Walk and Coma actually did open for them at the Soundhouse a few days after Bloodstock. And one of the things that was so significant with that band for me is the keyboardist used to be in a band called The Defiled, who, when they came out, I was obsessed. You know, when I know Jasper gets that with Parkway Drive. You know, you hear something you're like, oh, I love this, I need more.
Yeah.
Where
that emotion that hits you as soon as you hear their distinctive sound. Yeah.
It's like ASMR, but louder and more savage. But so I went to that show at the Soundhouse, and I managed to actually speak to the keyboardist because he's the guy who really got me to like look into keyboards and more of the electronic stuff, more like samples and shit like that. And because I remember I saw some kind of interview. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I really want to do stuff like that. Which then, about 6-7 years later, I finally started incorporating. So I actually managed to talk to him and say to him, dude, this is fucking great. I love what you're doing now. And you've been such an inspiration. And I sat down and had a little chat with him, everything. You know how they say, don't meet your heroes because they're not going to be what you expect. No, he was more. He was a lot more than I could possibly have ever hoped for. Anyway, moving from that, and without as many stories as I do, the next one would be the new body count record. Since the last record, body counts have just been fucking great. They filled that spot that Rage Against the Machine have left. And they do an absolutely great cover of the Ace of Spades, which is insane.
Nice one. That's sick. No, I mean, I mean, Red Method are a band that I'm familiar-ish with. I think that they create some sick music, and especially like as an image as well, they're really memorable because you just the whole kind of the image and the brand they have as a band is really memorable. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I can't say that I'm that familiar with Body Count at all, to be honest. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's Ice-T's metal band. It's really weird because you see Ice-T as just this rapper, but he does metal so fucking well.
Oh,
The
fair enough. I didn't know that.
you need to
Fair
check
play to him.
out you definitely need to check out the last record. The most recent record's got Amy Lee and Jamie Jasper on. There's someone else on there I just can't think of at the moment. On the last record,
I massively enjoyed No Lives Matter when it came out because it was on the back of it was on one of the free CDs that Metal Hammer magazine gives away,
oh yeah,
and I just remember listening to it and going, "Damn, this is just awesome."
it's so good. Like they even do a cover of Raining Blood, which works quite well. On the last record, he's got. I'm trying to think of the guests. He's had Max Cavalera, Dave Mustaine, and Randy Blythe from Lamb of God.
Oh, awesome.
Such absolutely brilliant records. Definitely give that a listen because it's nice to see a relatively big metal band that isn't that has black guys in it. It's nice to see the diversity in that.
Yeah, I think that there's probably I mean I can't speak for everyone's experiences because I mean personally for me obviously I couldn't care less where someone comes from, what ethnicity they are when they create music. It's just about whether I like the music for me. But I feel like there's definitely a side which is good to see that the people from different backgrounds and different ethnicities and just things like that are all getting involved in the music that we love.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. Uh, on top of my head, I can't think of any other records at the moment. We are getting quite far into the actual podcast at this point, as we're almost an hour and 45 minutes in there. So,
Like it.
yeah, getting sweet into the point. Are there any last messages that you have, or anything that you want to say in particular before we end it today?
For me, it would be first of all, thanks to you, Danny, for having us on, and also just we've got a newish single out, Broken Throne. You can find that on every streaming service, and put that on repeat, save it to your Spotify. Let us know what you think. That would be awesome. And yeah, we'll be looking to put some shows on as soon as we can do, and get more content out as soon as we can get it recorded. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Just check out our social medias. If you just put Beyond Extinction into any social page, you'll find us. And yeah, that's all it is with us. Just check out our material. Let us know if you like it, and thanks for listening to us natter on about God knows what.
Yeah, I'd just say pretty much the same as Jasper. We really appreciate if you gave us a listen. Broken Throne's out now. You can also listen to our other newest single, June Strider, and obviously our Retribution EP. Keep your eyes on the horizon and on Beyond Extinction, because we are going to be doing some very cool stuff soon, hopefully. New shows, new merch, whatever comes, keep your eyes peeled, because I don't think we have any hopes of slowing down anytime soon. And I just like to say thanks to to Danny for having us on and letting us talk complete crap. And listen to Perilla, go see Perilla, buy Perilla's merch. Give your life to Perilla. The guys are great, and long live metal.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, guys. It's been a pleasure as always, and I hope to have you guys on, when you release stuff and at another time when you've got more stories for us.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Nice one. Thanks very much, Danny. Take care.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, guys, have a good time, and don't
See ya.
forget to follow the Mesmerise podcast.